What's going on, everyone? My name's Tenebris, and today I'm bringing you dudes 10 tips and tricks for base building. We're going to cover where to start, wood and resource gathering, wave and region scores, and how all of that works, machine spawns and where they spawn from, wall building, a neat thing you can do with the truck in the center, and a ton more. I'll also have timestamps in the description and comments section, so if you're looking for any part in specific, or if you just want to skip the newbie tips, you can find those down below. In order to get started here for your base building and the wave defense, you need to come on over to the forest region. And in the forest region, you're looking for a small town called Leerburget. The easiest way to get to Leerburget is from the Martin Command Bunker, but if you don't have the Martin Command Bunker, another quick safe house is Leonard's Marin that you can get to pretty easily just by following the coastline and making your way up towards Leerburget here. Once you've completed the good news side mission, you'll finally have your command center truck and your base area to build from. Now, at this point, you're probably wondering, how do I gather wood? Or you're wondering, how do I gather the most wood possible? So I'm going to show you dudes the farming route that I have that gives me more wood than I need in the game currently. Maybe in the future we'll need more, but as it stands right now, this method of farming is completely overpowered. For wood farming, I've found 10 pieces of wood in 7 locations around the base. On top of that, you also have a few single spawn pieces of wood around the base that will give you a large infusion of wood upon starting. But the nice thing is, those 10 pieces of wood respawn on fast travel. So that means you only need to fast travel a very short distance to get those 10 pieces of wood to respawn. An extra bonus is that each pile of wood will give you 1 to 3 pieces. So, as a maximum, you could get like 30 wood in a run. But, heck, if you did that, I'd tell you to stop playing the game and just go buy a lottery ticket instead. But to add even more to your wood farming endeavors here, wood spawns in backpacks, suitcases, and toolboxes. So any location with an abundance of those will lead to pretty quick wood gains. My advice, start at your base and pick up the 10 wood. Then go to Saltham, loot the city, and go back to your base. Then go to Nyhamn Pier, loot all of the shipping crates, and back to your base. Then, if you have the DLC for Alpine Unrest, hit up Bjortenet, loot the hotel, and then back to your base again. At this point, you probably have a good 500 to 700 wood on you, which will build your entire base. Seriously, if you follow these steps, you'll probably only need to do this one wood run for your base for an entire month. Now, it's time to explain the whole region score thing for generating waves, and it's kind of simple complicated. So, it works the same way as the rival system in the game. Basically, only one can be generated per hour, and you have an hour cooldown until you can generate the next one. But, because we only have one base, it will max out at 1 wave defense per hour, and the best routine is the moment you get that wave defense, you go off, you complete it, and then you wait for that hour cooldown. Now next up, the higher the score in your region, the more likely you are to generate the wave defense mission, which means that the higher your region level, the more likely you are to see the mission pop up for completing really simple things. And then, lastly, the higher your in-game difficulty, the more likely you are to generate the wave. Same with rivals. So, if you're playing in Adventure, you have the least likely chance to generate a rival, even with a maxed out region, in comparison to Skirmish. And then Skirmish has less of a chance to generate a rival in comparison to Guerrilla difficulty, and it works the exact same way with the wave defense here for your base. So, taking this all into consideration here, that means that with a maximum region level of 25 on Gorilla difficulty, you could go off and kill a tick, and you'd have a wave every hour as long as you waited for that hour cooldown. Uh, Now, there's a way you can work with this if you don't play on Gorilla difficulty. You could just gather up the score you need in the difficulty you play on, flip things over to Gorilla difficulty really quickly once you have a high region score, and then go off and kill something simple like a tick or a doggo in order to generate that wave, and then flip things back to your normal difficulty before you go off and take on that wave. Now, for a quick pro tip to farming and maintaining your region score in the forest region, you want to find a high-class harvester, Phoenix or Apocalypse, destroy its rocket mortars, then keep it alive to farm its hunters that it will spawn to defend itself. The best way to keep track of the harvester you're farming is by having it be a rival, so that way you can see its position on the map at all times. Now, next up, we're going to be covering the locations that the machines spawn at. We won't cover the exact machines that spawn, because that's going to vary depending on what difficulty you're on, depending on whether or not you're on easy, medium, or hard in your waves. Or, it's also going to vary on RNG, because the machines will kind of randomize their spawns just a little bit throughout the waves. So the first area we're going to look at is over here, just a little bit past the roof. You could find the machines that spawn usually just right in this little area, right a little bit past the dilapidated roof. The next chunk you'll see machines spawn at is just over here, and a lot of times it's actually a lot further back than players would expect. It's much closer to this kind of phoenix block structure, and it's just right in this kind of clearing area of rough terrain. The next spot, and again, this is another one that sometimes I feel like players anticipate it to be closer up than it actually is down here, and it's right around this little patch of rocks right here. Just in this spot right down here, just kind of past eye view from where your base is at. And the last location that the machines spawn at, for now at least, is over here, just kind of around the bend. It's just a little bit past these two trees over here, right where the grass starts to get kind of green as you go down the mountainside. Understanding where the machines spawn around your base is really essential, especially when it comes to placing and laying traps for the machines. This is actually something that I'm going to bookmark for myself, just so that I can keep track of the exact positions of the machines here. Now, next up is a mistake that is really easy to make, and that is leaving your walls as just a single layer. There's so much more you can do with your base if you double up your walls, from having hidden tunnels to adding in defensive structures like turrets or hunting towers. And really, in the end as well, you can kind of customize your base just a little bit more and work with the base building system here in Generation 0 just a bit more to wind up with a better looking base overall. Simply just pushing out your walls a little bit will a lot of times just create that bit of room that you need in order to double up your walls. And just look at the end result here, man. It looks so much better on the inside here than it did with just these sandbags sticking around once we have all of these flush walls facing inwards. Just a much cleaner looking base on the inside overall. And the added benefit to doubling up your walls is that you can make some pretty unique hidden tunnels throughout your base that you can utilize for easy access. The next tip is kind of maybe a bit of a personal preference more than a tip, but in my opinion it is better to repair less and build more in Generation 0. So instead of building just one base and settling with that base and just repairing that base and keeping the one single base the whole time, It's better to let the base kind of gradually get destroyed and make new modifications to your base along the way. And sometimes even just tear down the whole base and build a brand new one from scratch. That way you're kind of experimenting with the Generation Zero building system a little bit more. And that way, to me at least, the building system is a little bit more fulfilling than just building one base and grinding waves until you're blue in the face. For our next set of tips here, we're going to be looking at performing parkour around your base because it could actually be super useful. So we're going to look at a couple different structures you could put around your base and then some things you can do without structures. So first off, you can utilize small walls to get on top of pylons and tall walls. So for the small walls, I find it's really easy to just set up a pylon on the side of it and then utilize kind of the corner to give yourself a stable place to jump to, and then jumping on up to the pylon. And then from there you can also jump up and on top of tall walls, which you can utilize to get into hidden tunnels around your base or to get over the wall entirely to go off and fight machines on the outside. You can also use hunting towers for the exact same thing. Just walk up the ramp a little bit and you can hop up and on top of tall walls and then down and into hidden tunnels if you need to, or outside of your base. Now there's three methods of getting on top of your command center. The first method, and probably the easiest method, is using the same method we used to get over the tall wall, of using small walls and pylons. So you could jump up onto the corner here, and then up and on top of the pylon, and then up and on top of the resistance center. Really easy, just 3 easy jumps. And then the next method is a little bit more difficult because the hitbox for this wall is pretty thin. But you can also jump up at the front here just by jumping up on the wall. I find it's a little bit easier to land on this hitbox if you jump up sideways. And then you can jump up over here. And the last method is easily the hardest approach. Now the last parkour jump to get on top of the command center here is arguably the most difficult. You have to land on the side view mirror and make your way up onto the top. No promises that I'm gonna do this first try, but what you gotta do is jump up and on top of the sandbags over here. Jumping up onto the tire can be a little bit awkward, but really this is the hard jump. Dude, no way, I did it on my first try. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to kind of land on the side view mirror and then just like make a small hop to get up and on top of this. So let's see if I could do it again here. Let's see if I could do it again. Oh man. So it's really easy for you to throw your character's momentum like right over the side view mirror. So sometimes it's a bit good to like choke up on the jump just a bit. And yeah, it's pretty tough, but if you show it off to your friends, I'm sure that they'll be impressed. Now, the next tip is one that I see far too often, and that is leaving your turrets exposed out and in the open. A lot of times, you'll just plant down a turret, and you won't really think about its placement too much. You'll just kind of put it down outside of a wall when you're first starting out with your wave defense. So you really don't want to do that. These turrets break super easy. So you want to find ways to fortify your turrets by placing down walls. And something that's patented by me here is actually placing lamps in front of the machine gun itself. So let me show you dudes what I'm talking about here. First off, you want to wall off the sides and the back end of the turret. It has no way of attacking things that are attacking it from that side, from those sides. So you want to make sure that those sides are properly defended so that that way it won't be getting destroyed by any sort of crossfire. And then in front of the turret, in order to keep its protection maximized but its ability to fire maximized as well, you want to take a couple pylons or walls, wall off the kind of corner sides because again it can't really shoot around these sides too easily, and then you want to take a couple lamps and place them down in front of the turret. And what that will do is that'll create just a nice kind of boxed off turret that is really protected from any sort of incoming machine fire, but still has a pretty decent radius to fire out of itself. And every once in a while it will shoot these structures, but luckily enough I've done some very thorough testing and it does not damage any structures that you've placed down. For now that is, and I really hope that that does not change in the future. Now, if you've been following my steps so far and you're still finding yourself having a bit of a difficult time taking on the waves, especially in solo, there are some really simple traps that you can lay around in the areas that I designated to you dudes earlier when I was talking about the machine spawn locations. So let's go over some of these traps that you can place down. The main focus of these traps is focused around a landmine as the kind of activator, an EMP of some sort to stun any machines that are around, and then some sort of an explosive of some sort in order to cause some really serious damage. Winds up being a wombo combo that most machines can't really deal with. So what I like to do is I like to position a landmine right here, and then a landmine just like, you know, a few feet away, just with enough space to kind of cover this entire area in case if they step on either side. Then I like to, I'm so used to building here, then I like to take my EMP, place it down in the middle, and then take the fuel cell, place that down in the middle as well, and this right here will stop most machines. There are tanks that can spawn, and they can survive these, but that's why the EMP is there, because then they'll also be stunned, and that will give you, like, a few moments to actually react to them. Now, I want to know, my dudes, in the past I did a 30 days of traps marathon on my channel. Would you dudes want to see a 30 days of traps for bases here? I'm totally tempted to do another one. Additionally, if you find yourself short on proper explosives, there are a number of locations you can go to for red canisters that are constantly spawning. One of my favorites to go to is Ostervik's Industrial Mrad over here. Now, another quick and simple trap that you could set up is just utilizing explosives and landmines. So what you're going to do is you're going to make kind of a trail of explosives here. And what you're going to do is you're going to bring these back quite a bit so that way you aren't having too many chain reactions. Now, this sort of trap can be a little bit more difficult and a little bit more hit and miss because sometimes the machines will completely avoid your traps. But the more you practice with it, the more you'll be able to find yourself figuring out the routes that the machines actually take here. And then the last trap is a very simple large area EMP. So what you do is you place down your landmine, and then you take your EMPs and you place them on either side, just like maybe, I don't know, 3-4 feet away from the landmine. And with them on either side, that's a little bit far actually, I'd probably put it right there. With them on either side, that landmine will blow up both of them and will stun all of the machines that are in this kind of bubble area. The only thing you want to be aware of though is that currently in the game, sadly, trap materials do despawn if you go too far from them. So allow me to demonstrate. If you put down a large fuel cell right here, and a landmine right beside it, and then an EMP right beside that, we're going to run all the length all the way down. And so this basically means you can only trap like 1 or 2 sides at a time, and you have to kind of hang around those trapped sides. So we're going to run down and over here, back to where we came before, and then we'll go back, and sadly some of these trap materials will despawn. As you can see here, the car battery and the landmine are still here, but the large fuel cell is gone. So you want to be just a little bit careful with some of the explosives that you're going to be placing around the area, especially large fuel cells. Those things are expensive, man. And for the final tip of today, it's kind of just a general tip towards base building in most video games. Try to be creative. Try to do things that you wouldn't normally do. Maybe you like, say for instance with me, I really like having those flush insides on my base, so I should probably go off and experiment with the sandbag side and see what kind of a base I can come up with utilizing the rough side of the tall walls. And it could be the same thing for you. Maybe you prefer having the flush side facing outwards, but maybe you should try having the sandbag side facing outwards instead. There's tons of ways you can be creative with this system, and even though currently our build palette is limited, I think that we still have enough means here in the game to make some really excellent bases. And in all honesty, on the official Generation Zero Discord, I've seen some amazing base designs over there. If any of you have been sharing your base designs on the Discord, shoutouts to you. All the bases so far look absolutely superb. So, I know this was a chunky video with a metric ton of information in it, but I really hope that this has helped you dudes, whether or not you're just getting started with base building, or if you needed a bit of advice along the way. Cheers, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.